UFO files released, the 10-minute cut. The files are real. The weird part is not only what is in them. The weird part is how the public is being allowed to see them. This is not aliens confirmed. It is also not nothing to see here. The better read is more uncomfortable. The release shows a government system trying to classify, calm down, and manage a problem that was too large to ignore. The corpus I pulled is the public UAP release, FAA reports, NRC records, ODNI material, Office of the Secretary of Defense documents, AARO reports, case resolutions, briefing slides, scientific papers, public imagery, and official footage. Locally, the set was hundreds of PDFs and close to 1,000 pages. But it is not a clean dump of raw reality. It is a curated stack of summaries, screenshots, case cards, and conclusions. That matters because a conclusion is not the same thing as the evidence package. If an office says a case is solved, the public should be able to see enough data to understand how it was solved. If the raw data is classified, then say that clearly. Do not turn a conclusion into a magic spell. The first big pattern is the FAA material. A lot of the files are short aviation reports. They are dry. They read like professional people trying very hard to describe strange lights without sounding dramatic. Red lights, green lights, white lights, stationary objects, bright objects, objects above aircraft, lights that seem to move, hover, separate, spin, or change distance from each other. Some of those reports are almost certainly ordinary. Some are too thin to solve. But that is exactly the point. The system was collecting uncertainty, not certainty. A pilot can report something honestly and still not have enough metadata for a later analyst to close the case. A radar gap can mean the object was not there. It can also mean the reporting system did not capture the event well enough. The second big pattern is the control layer. AARO does not just investigate UAP. It decides which category a case falls into. Balloon, bird, drone, aircraft, satellite, clutter, sensor artifact, insufficient data, resolved, unresolved. Those words sound boring until you realize they decide what becomes visible. If a UAP near a nuclear site is filed as a drone, it becomes a drone problem. If a strange light is later assigned to a satellite flare, it becomes a satellite problem. If a famous video is explained through parallax, it becomes a geometry problem. Categories are power because categories decide the count. That is why this release should not be watched like a highlight reel. It should be watched like a filing system. The question is not only, what was in the sky? The question is, what did the system allow itself to notice, preserve, and publish? A weak report can still be meaningful if it exposes a weak collection process. A solved case can still be meaningful if the proof remains hidden behind a summary. Even a mundane explanation can teach us something if it shows which data was missing. The 2024 AARO numbers are one of the biggest things in the release. AARO says that as of October 24, 2024, its holdings reached 1,652 UAP reports. That is not a nothing burger. It does not prove aliens, but it proves the reporting system filled up fast enough that Congress, the Pentagon, and the intelligence world had to build a process around it. The sentence everyone quotes is AARO saying it found no evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology. That sentence matters. We should not pretend it is not there, but read it carefully. It is a boundary statement. It tells you what this office says it verified through this process. It does not give the public every raw sensor track, every classified platform detail, every contractor archive, every chain of custody file, or every reason something was withheld. So the honest position is not blind belief and it is not blind trust. The honest position is show the work. That phrase is the spine of the whole video. Show the work does not mean pretend every case is alien until proven otherwise. It means if the state wants authority over the story, it has to show enough of the method for the public to understand the story. Otherwise the public is not being given disclosure. It is being given a controlled exhibit. GOFAST is the best example because everybody knows the clip. It looks fast. It feels like an object screaming over the ocean. AARO says the object was assessed around 13,000 feet while the jet was around 25,000 feet, and that the apparent speed is explained by motion parallax. Maybe that is correct. Parallax is real. Geometry can make a slow object look fast when the observer is moving and range is uncertain. But the public version should not stop at parallax. Next. If the geometry closes the case, publish the full resolution source, telemetry, timestamps, wind model, assumptions, and methods so outsiders can reproduce it. The point is not to worship the mystery. The point is to make official closure auditable. GOFAST is important for exactly that reason. It is not the strongest proof of anything exotic. It is the strongest proof that a famous public clip can carry more cultural force than its evidence package can support. The video becomes a symbol. Then the official explanation becomes another symbol. What is missing is the boring middle, the math, the metadata, the raw track, the part that lets people check both sides. Puerto Rico is even more loaded. The thermal video looks like an object moving fast, splitting, disappearing, and maybe interacting with water. AARO says the objects were likely a pair of sky lanterns traveling close together, that the apparent split was two objects, and that the disappearance was an infrared contrast issue, not a transmedium event. Again, maybe, but notice the structure. A case that lived in public imagination for years is brought back under control by a reconstruction. That reconstruction may be reasonable, but the public still needs the timestamps, path model, wind assumptions, rejected alternatives, and raw frames. Without that, the public is being asked to trust the referee. The Eglin case is smaller but very revealing. A military pilot reported 4 potential UAP near Eglin Air Force Base, and there was a radar issue. AARO assessed the object as likely ordinary, possibly a balloon or lighter-than-air object, and assessed the radar problem as coincidental. That may be the best explanation. But when the witness is military, the location is a military range, and the public answer is probably ordinary, it is fair to ask what else was in the airspace, what systems were active, and what parts of that answer are not public. The Western United States case is the same lesson from another angle. AARO assessed distant lights as likely commercial aircraft, possibly very far away. That is plausible. The sky is not a flat screen. Distance confusion is real. But if flight tracks close the case, publish the track comparison. If geometry closes the case, show the geometry. That is the rule across all of these case resolutions. The explanation can be ordinary and still deserve scrutiny. In fact, ordinary explanations should be the easiest ones to prove. If the answer is aircraft, show the aircraft. If the answer is balloons, show the wind. If the answer is satellites, show the orbit. If the answer is sensor limitation, show the limitation. The public does not need vibes. The public needs reproducible closure. The satellite flare paper may be one of the most important documents in the pile. It explains how Starlink and other large constellations can create flares, lines of light, sudden appearances, disappearances, and even patterns that look geometric. That is a real explanation for a lot of modern weirdness in the sky. But it also creates a new alibi machine. If every strange formation becomes probably satellites, then the orbital match matters. The method matters. The timestamps matter. A conclusion is stronger when the public can inspect the work. This also changes what witnesses are up against. A pilot, police officer, or ordinary person can see something that is genuinely confusing in the moment. Later, an analyst with orbital tools may be able to explain it. That does not make the witness stupid. It means the sky has changed faster than public intuition. The archive is not just documenting mystery. It is documenting a collision between human perception and a more crowded technological sky. The metallic specimen files are where the mythology goes physical. A layered magnesium zinc material with bismuth and lead gets tested by Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Public claims had suggested a 1947 crash origin and exotic function as a terahertz waveguide. ORNL found the isotopes consistent with terrestrial origin and did not support the exotic waveguide claim. That is a real finding. We should not fake our way around it. But the interesting part is also the custody problem. The sample had a story around it, and the story was stronger than the record. That is how UFO mythology grows. Missing custody, old rumors, technical language, and people filling the gaps. Then there is KONA BLUE. This is not proof of a recovered craft. But it is proof that recovery and reverse engineering claims had enough institutional life to move through proposals, access structures, and official language. AARO says KONA BLUE was a proposed program built around assumptions that such material existed, and that it did not collect extraterrestrial craft or bodies. That distinction is huge. The paper trail is not proof of a saucer. It is proof that the idea of a saucer moved through the machine. That is why I do not want to flatten KONA BLUE into either extreme. If you say KONA BLUE proves aliens, you are overclaiming. If you say KONA BLUE proves there was never anything to look at, you are also missing the point. The important thing is that the recovery myth was not just internet fog. Touched offices, advocates, proposals, and secrecy culture. That is real enough to study. The NRC records may be the quietest and most important part. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission material says there was no clean security incident database category or guidance to distinguish UAP from UAS or drone reports around nuclear licensees. That means unusual events near nuclear infrastructure could be miscategorized, undercounted, or buried inside ordinary drone reporting. That is the category problem in its purest form. Before you ask what they found, ask what their system is capable of seeing. And that is why the nuclear-adjacent material matters even when it does not give us a dramatic image. Points to the plumbing. If a reporting system has no clean box for a phenomenon, the phenomenon can disappear inside the wrong box. Later, someone can search the archive and honestly say there is no pattern, because the archive was never built to preserve the pattern. So what is new here? The new thing is not a single alien image. The new thing is the map of the management system. We have official footage, case cards, report counts, sensor arguments, nuclear-adjacent reporting confusion, a failed exotic material claim, recovery program rumors entering bureaucracy, and repeated public conclusions that depend on data the public cannot fully inspect. That is why the mood of the release feels so controlled. Balloons, birds, drones, aircraft, satellites, lanterns, fishing nets, parallax, terrestrial isotopes. No evidence of extraterrestrial technology. Some of those explanations are probably right, but the repetition also drains charge from the subject. It trains the audience to stop asking for the package behind the conclusion. The serious demand is simple. Release the raw videos. Release uncompressed frames. Release radar tracks when possible. Release telemetry. Release weather and wind models. Release satellite checks. Release chain of custody. Release the method. If something cannot be released, explain what class of information is being withheld. This is also how you keep the subject from getting poisoned by fantasy. Stronger releases do not only help believers. They help skeptics too. They let honest people separate signal from noise. They stop blurry clips from becoming religion. They stop bland denials from becoming a substitute for evidence. A better archive is the antidote to both cult behavior and institutional handwaving. The files do not prove aliens. They prove the unknown is being managed. They prove that pilots report strange things. They prove that cases can live for years as public mythology and then return as official reconstructions. They prove that categories decide reality inside the archive. They prove that the sky is now crowded with ordinary things that can look extraordinary. They prove that official comm is not the same as public proof. That is why the biggest find is not a single image. It is the shape of the release itself. The government is not simply opening a drawer and dumping everything onto the table. It is showing us a curated surface. Selected video, selected stills, selected reports, selected language, selected confidence. The missing layer is the raw layer. The real story is not one file. It is the gap between what they say they know and what they are willing to show. Do not worship the mystery. Do not worship the state. Follow the files. Follow the categories. Follow the redactions. Follow the missing metadata. Follow the witnesses serious enough to report, and the institutions slow enough to make the reporting system itself part of the story.